Hello, hello. Are we rolling? Oh, dang. Oops. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new video here at Amaru HQ. And today we have my top 5 personal weapon combos in Apex Legends. Now, I'm sure there are plenty more of combinations that can be used while in game, but I picked my personal top 5 that I use and the ones I've been using since I came back to Apex this season. Also, keep in mind that it will depend on which map you're playing on and the mode that you play as well. So just keep that in mind as you watch the video. Now, before we begin, I would just like to say if you're here watching this video, I really appreciate you stopping by and taking the time in your day to check it out. If you would like, hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with all my content and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the video. All right, so I think the way we're going to do this for this video, we are going to do from a 5 to 1 list kind of, and 1 being like my top pick. Now, in Apex Legends, picking the right weapon can differ between maps, modes, legend, playstyle, etc, like I mentioned before. But in my opinion, I think that always having a nice set for you to use can be helpful because practice makes perfect. So for example, if you have a set weapon that you use personally all the time, then it would help you be consistent with those weapons and it eventually, in theory, help you to get better as a player as well. Now, I know this video is going to be kind of for whether you're new, whether you're returning. You know, I don't know how many players out there, whether you're a veteran as well, maybe give it a try. You know, it just depends on, or maybe you already have a set weapons that you use and those are your main two to go with all the time. But kind of just my opinion on these weapons that I will be listing out here. All right, so let's get started. So let's start with number 5, the 30-30 and the Havoc. Now, this weapon combo is great for any player who wants to have that long range damage and short to medium range effectiveness as well. Now, the 30-30 was nerfed this season, but even now it's still a great weapon to use. I think so, in my opinion. Now, it may not be overpowered as it was last season. I remember when I came back for a couple matches in last season, it was pretty overpowered. A lot of people were just using it. I think the Skull Piercer attachment was giving it a lot of power. So what they did, they ended up nerfing the Skull Piercer by 1%. So now currently it takes about an extra bullet or 2 to knock someone down. It is doing about 85 damage per headshot with no helmet at max charge. And if they already have a max helmet, it does 67 damage per shot. And with the Skull Piercer, it bumps it up only to 72 damage. So it does take an extra bullet to basically, even with headshots, it does take an extra bullet to knock someone. Now, you do have to remember that the 30-30 has a small charge up mechanic that if you charge it up all the way, it gives you the max damage. So while you're using the 30-30, obviously just make sure to always hit with the max charge damage charged up. But even without it, it could still do pretty decent damage to the body and the head. Also, it carries up to 12 rounds per mag when you have the purple and gold mags. That is the max amount of rounds you get per mag. I know this was a little bit higher before, so they did nerf this as well. I don't remember what was the high. It may have been 15, but I could be wrong about that. As for the Havoc, they did not say they buffed it, but this season it has been pretty good and I personally have been enjoying it, using it. Now, obviously, you must have the turbocharger hop up on it for it to be even more deadly than it is without it. Because even without it, it still does a decent amount of damage. Now, the reason I say the Havoc could go well because of what it can offer. You can use it to finish off a fight after you hurt someone with the 30-30, or it can be used to fight in case of a situation where a team is flanking you from behind and trying to surprise you. So you always have that option of, you know, because fighting up close and, you know, pretty close range fights with the 30-30 is not difficult, but it can be a little bit more tough to win a fight when you're fighting against a fully automatic weapon compared to a marksman scout style weapon. So this is kind of why I say it's a good weapon to have while you are trying to get these long shots in with the 30-30. And one of the reasons why I say the turbocharger has to be on it is because it will give you that competitiveness to fight with the other automatic weapons that are faster up close. So the charge of speed for the Havoc is a little bit slow without the turbocharger. So if you have it on, it will give you that quickness to be able to shoot back when a team shows up. Always tell your teammates to ping a turbocharger if possible. Currently, the Havoc requires about 10 shots to the head and about 13 to the body, 1 to any of the red shields. So obviously you can do your math a little bit. If you have lower shields, it will be less. But I will be giving out information based on red shields. So again, not a bad option to have in your back pocket, and it can also hold up to 30 rounds once you have purple and gold mags. Number 4, triple take / sentinel and R301. Now this combo, I think, in my opinion, is the best combination to have for any sniper player out there. Now they did not mention that they buffed the triple take, but man, this season the triple take has been hitting pretty hard. Obviously, as long as you have the charge all the way up. But I also put the sentinel on this option too, because the sentinel has been strong, especially since they did buff it, I believe, last season. I don't remember which season they buffed it a little bit. The sentinel is a sniper that uses mini shields for amp power, so it gives you amp power for your shots. But keep in mind that this will require good accuracy since it is a pretty strong weapon. It is a bolt action sniper that takes a little bit of accuracy and practice to hit. Now the reason I say the sentinel is in this category because it is a 2 headshot even against red shields while it's amped, and a 3 shot to the body. So it is stronger than the triple take for headshots, but I think the triple take might be a better option since just because it has a slight faster fire rate than the sentinel. So for this section, I will leave it up to preference for this combination. Just depends on what you prefer to use. The triple take headshots are very strong, even against red armor, only taking about 3 to 4 shots to knock someone if you hit all the shots. Now, the great thing about the triple take is that it only has to use 2 attachments, and then the scope is up to you. The 2 attachments are extended mag and sniper stock. So it is giving you a little bit of a less stress to find all the attachments that most weapons use. Now, and I guess this is kind of the downside of the triple take, is that you can put all the scopes you want on them except anything higher than the 6 times, the 4 to 8, and the 4 to 10. You cannot add those to the triple take. But in my opinion, I think ideally the 3 times Ranger is the best one to use on the triple take. That is the one I prefer, at least. The second one I would probably recommend for the triple take would probably be the 2 to 4 AOG scope. Those are probably my 2 recommendations for the triple take. Now for the sentinel, you can add any of the scopes. The sentinel has a 119 per headshot while amped and a 95 damage without the amp bullets. It's about a 2 headshot with it amped and 3 headshot without it amped. Again, it does just require a little bit of accuracy. Just keep that in mind when you are using the sentinel. I think the best scope to use is probably either the 6 times or the 4 to 8. Now the 4 to 10 does have the DigiThreat line, so you can use that towards smoke. So it is up to preference for that one at least. But for me personally, I like the 6 and I like the 4 to 8 at least. Now as for the 301, this weapon is just an overall great weapon to use. It has a low recoil and medium fire rate as well. Now it was nerfed a couple seasons back to increase recoil, damage reduced, and hip fire spread adjusted. But this season, for me personally, it has been pretty decent. This season they did reduce the hip fire spread and it is a little bit better now. Now it takes about 15 shots to the head and 18 to the body. Anything that has red shields, which in my opinion is not too bad. I think, 15 shots, it is kind of forcing you to have the mag. You will have to have the mag since by default with no attachments you only have 18 bullets, so technically you would have to hit every bullet just to win with no mag, which is not great. But I think, just overall it's still a great weapon to use. You just kind of have to be a little bit patient with finding all the attachments. The best scope to use with the 301 are most likely the 2-time Bruiser or the 3 times Ranger. Also, the iron sights are manageable to handle as well. The 301 is great for short to medium range, and it is a great weapon to use with any long range, in my opinion. But just remember that you can use a sniper just for long range, and then just make sure to always have your R301 ready for any close range fight. Number 3, the G7 and the CAR. The G7 has always been a great weapon since day one when Apex launched. Now, one of my friends did mention to me one time that when Apex launched, this was considered a scout sniper, the G7. But because even before, you could add any of the long range scopes, you could add any of the sniper scopes to the G7, which I still think is pretty crazy to imagine. Maybe some of the veterans out there that played day one, leave a comment and see if you remember that as well. I missed out on this personally because I started playing in season 4. So I did not get to experience that for myself. But yes, the G7 is a great long range weapon like the 3030, except the only difference is that it is a light ammo weapon. So it will not slow down enemies when you shoot at them like heavy weapons do. I just personally started using the G7 and I will say it's great. The shields takes about 5 to 6 shots at red shields with headshots and about 7 to 8 at the body. So this makes this weapon very deadly. You have to be pretty accurate with it if you want to fully one clip someone with it. It uses extended light mags, barrel stabilizer, and sniper stock for all its attachments. Now the scope is a preference again, I think, in my opinion. I personally like using the 3x Ranger, but I have seen a lot of players use the 2 to 4 AOG. You know, I have tried it myself as well, and I still just prefer the 3x over it. I mean, obviously the 2 to 4 gives you a little bit more range to work with, but I just don't like the 2 to 4 too much for it. But maybe I still have to test it out a little bit more, and maybe we can come back to that. Now, as for the Kar SMG, this weapon is very good and can go very well with the G7. Now, the Kar SMG was introduced back in season 11 and became the first and only weapon so far that can use heavy and light rounds. You can choose which one you want to use at your preference. Now, remember that heavy ammo slows down players a little and light ammo does not. So the Kar can be deadly either way, since it can use either ammo type. This means that you can use the extended mags whether it's heavy or light on it, since it can carry both. Also, since it is an SMG, its fire rate is very great for any close range fight. It takes about 18 shots to the head and 19 to the body with anyone with red shields. Now, along with the G7, the Kar fits great because it would give you that close range confidence to push a team if needed, especially if you already damage them with the scout. Medium range fights will be a little bit more difficult to hit, uncomparable to the R301, because its range is a little bit, not weak, but it is a little bit harder to control from a longer range. But maybe the 2x Bruiser could help out a little bit with that. You kind of have to just manage that out a little bit. Now, in my opinion, I think this weapon combo fits best for any player who wants to output the most damage from far and then rush the enemy as well. Number 2, Nemesis and Prowler / Hemlock. Now, this combo I recently started trying out while playing ranked because I honestly think that the double burst weapons are pretty strong this season. Now, the Nemesis is the last weapon that was added back in season 16. There has not been a new weapon for 4 seasons now. You know, I think the rumor is that in season 21 will have a new weapon. We'll have to see. Now, I personally did not play much of season 16, but when I did, I heard a lot about the Nemesis and I saw why it was the meta weapon to use. It was completely overpowered during that time. It is a 4 burst weapon that charges up as you fire. It takes about 12 hits to the head with red shields and about 15 to the body with red shields as well. Now, I think Respawn nerfed this either last season or season 18. I don't remember exactly which season they nerfed it, but I still think personally it hurts. It still hurts pretty good. They did not mention that they buffed it this season or did any type of adjustments to it. I just think that it is in a balanced spot currently right now. It uses barrel stabilizer, extended mag, and standard stocks. With the gold mag or purple, it can hold up to 32 rounds. The Nemesis is great for short to medium range fights, and it can also be used for long range, but it will depend on the scope and if you can handle the recoil. But of course, we're not talking about sniper distances, but I would probably give it about 50 meters or so. You could probably handle the recoil for that range. Overall, I think it's a great weapon to have for those type of situations, but this is where the Prowler comes into play. I personally have always liked the Prowler. It is considered an SMG, so close range fights with the Prowler will be pretty strong. Now, the Prowler used to have a specific hop up to make it full auto, and man, let me tell you, I missed that and I loved that when that was around. It was amazing to have in those early days. You know, unfortunately, they got rid of the hop up and then they ended up putting the Prowler in the care package for a couple seasons. Now, this season, they brought it back out, and it has been fun to use again for me personally. Even though it does not have the full auto option, it is still a good burst weapon to have for those close range fights. It gives about the same hits, about 12 to the head, 15 to the body. Kind of the similar amount of damage that the Nemesis does. The only difference that maybe the Nemesis will make it a little bit stronger in that situation will be the speed up fire rate. The fire rate for the Nemesis, obviously as you shoot, gets stronger. So that kind of will give it a little bit of an advantage. But ultimately, the Prowler is still a great weapon to combine with the Nemesis. Now, there is another burst weapon that I would recommend in this option as well, and that is the Hemlock. Another great burst weapon which you can use instead of the Prowler. But I think honestly, it is preference for this one. If you want to use the Hemlock, it will give you the 2 weapons to have medium to short range effectiveness, and you can use both burst weapons for that purpose. All right, so my number 1 pick, the Flatline and the R301. This is my personal go-to combo that I have been using while I play my matches, if I can find them, obviously. This combo gives you a full set of auto weapons. The Flatline is probably my favorite weapon in the game and has always been my favorite since I started playing Apex, and especially since it has the best skin in the game as well. You know, it just brings me back to those days when I started playing Apex in season 4, and I kind of have a soft space for it. The Flatline is a full auto weapon that uses heavy ammo, so this means that the shots will slow your enemies down. Now with the gold mag and purple, it holds up to 30 rounds. Unfortunately, the Flatline used to have a hop-up called the Anvil Receiver. Now this was a great hop-up for the Flatline because it was great to have a trade of ammo for increased damage, but a slow fire rate as well. So it would eat up 2 bullets instead, so you just kind of had to divide your bullets. It would take up the whole 30 rounds. It would take 2 bullets for every shot. Great hop-up to have, and especially because you could also have it on the 301. Unfortunately, they removed it a couple seasons back, but when it was available, it was very strong. Now currently the Flatline does 12 hits to red shields to the head and about 15 to 17 shots to the body with red shields. So ideally, the Flatline is great for short to medium range and even long range as well, if you can handle the recoil for it as well. Has a pretty heavy recoil once it hits the long range area, so if you can practice controlling the recoil for that, then it shouldn't be too bad. Now currently the Flatline does do 12 hits to the head with red shields and about 15 to 17 shots to the body on red shields. Now ideally the Flatline is great. Overall, I think the Flatline is a great weapon to use in my opinion. Now, as for the 301, we mentioned it with another gun as well. It is used for short to medium range, so this combo will give you more of an attack and push combo to use. You will not get too much long range hits with this combo unless you switch them to single fire, then maybe you can get a couple hits off. But I think ideally for this combo, you could use it to flank your enemies while they're distracted, whether they're fighting with someone else, another team, whether they're fighting with your teammate who's shooting them from far. You know, it just depends which way you want to attack. Again, this combo isn't overpowered. I just think I feel more comfortable using them because it's sufficient enough to get the task done. Now, as for the scopes to use here, I personally like using the Bruiser or the Flatline and either one. But if there's another option, I would use the 3x Ranger on the 301 and keep the Bruiser on the Flatline. Both of these scopes have been the best to use for me. All right, well, there it is. That is my top 5 personal weapon combos to use in Apex Legends, and a little bit of details on the weapons as well. As a disclaimer, this is not a list of good to best ranking because there are other combos I know I missed, but I wanted to just give my top 5 personal that I use. Now this is because, as you know, if you play Apex, you will not always get the weapons you want. So I would recommend that you can try out these weapons out in the range and test them out in the match. Completely up to you. But let me know in the comment section your ideal combo and which ones have been working for you while you're playing. I would like to see the other combos that maybe other people are trying out that maybe I would like to try out as well. It'd be great to check those out as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. And also don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all my content. Enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, never stop gaming. Amaru out. Peace.